You see, the funny thing about silence is how loud it gets when you stop giving people what they're addicted to, your reactions. People don't realize how much control you had until you stopped speaking. They don't notice how much they relied on your energy until you vanish like smoke. They mocked your voice when it was calm, laughed when you screamed. But now they're suffocating in your quiet. You stopped explaining, you stopped defending yourself, and it's driving them insane. They can't stand not knowing what you think, what you feel, or what you plan. Because they don't fear your anger, they fear your indifference. And now, you've become their punishment without lifting a finger. You ever notice how when you were kind, they took you for granted? You gave your time, your effort, your heart, and they stomped it all out like a cigarette they didn't even finish. But when you fell silent, they started checking their phones a little more, wondering why you weren't showing up like you used to. When you stopped calling, they started counting the days. When you stopped replying, they started creating conversations with themselves. That's power, kid. That's the kind of quiet that burns more than 1,000 words. That's the kind of silence that's louder than revenge. Because now they sit there wondering what's going on in his head. And that's when they realize they can't read you anymore. You've become unpredictable. You've become dangerous. They expected you to explain yourself, to cry, to beg, but you didn't. You just walked away, calmly, quietly. No scene, no drama, just a cold exit. And that's what makes them lose sleep. Because people like control. They want to be the reason behind your chaos, your breakdown, your reaction. But when you give them nothing, you break them. You cut deeper with your silence than you ever could with your words. You don't need to scream to destroy them. You just need to stop feeding the attention they crave. Let them choke on the silence they earned. See, your silence? It's a message. It says, I don't owe you anything anymore. No explanations, no second chances, no justifications. Just the sound of absence echoing louder than their pride can handle. And it kills them slowly. Because now they replay everything they said to you, everything they did, wondering where they went wrong. But it's too late. You're gone. Not physically, maybe, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally. You packed up and left. You outgrew their games. You outgrew their manipulation. You outgrew being the emotional punching bag they could always rely on. People don't respect what they don't fear, and they don't fear what never leaves. You were always there, texting back, showing up, giving chances, until you weren't. And now, your absence is a void they can't fill. They talk to others, but it's not the same. They laugh, but it doesn't hit like it used to. Because what you gave was rare, and they treated it like it was replaceable. That's the biggest joke of all. Thinking someone like you could be replaced with someone who's just available. But now they're haunted by your silence. Every time they scroll, they hope to see your name. Every time their phone lights up, they wish it's you. But it never is. And it never will be. That's your revenge. Peacefully living while they drown in everything they did wrong. You don't have to fight fire with fire. Sometimes you just have to let them burn in their own ashes. Let them feel what it's like to be ignored, to be dismissed, to be unimportant. You gave them everything, and now you give them nothing. That's not cruelty. That's balance. That's reality. That's karma dressed in silence. They're not used to that silence, are they? They're used to chaos, to noise, to your voice echoing in their world like background music they never appreciated. But now that it's gone, now that you've turned it off, they're losing their minds trying to remember the melody, because you weren't just some noise. They built their ego on your presence. You were the comfort zone they spit on, the safety net they mocked, the loyal one they lied to. And they thought you'd stay there. They thought no matter what they did, you'd still answer. You'd still care. But they never expected the day you'd go silent. Not just quiet. Silent. That cold, deadly silence that says, I'm done trying. And now, they hear it every night, in the spaces between their laughs, in the silence after their arguments, in the loneliness they created. Your silence is not absence. It's a punishment they can't escape. And don't get it twisted. They'll try to provoke you. They'll bait you with insults, with rumors, with attention-seeking drama. Because silence exposes them. It forces them to look in the mirror without the distraction of your defense. And that mirror, it's ugly. It shows them the truth they buried under excuses, that they were the problem, that they lost someone who gave a damn. But instead of owning it, they'll test you. They'll post fake smiles, throw shade, pretend they're thriving without you. But watch closely, because even in their noise, they'll glance back just to see if you noticed. And when you don't react, when you stay silent, that's when it hits. That's when they know they don't live in your world anymore. You erased them with nothing but distance. No rage, no breakdown, just silence that cut like glass. You know why it hurts them so much? Because deep down, they know what they did. Maybe they'll never admit it. Maybe they'll never say the words. But they know. They know they had someone loyal, someone rare, someone who cared. And instead of cherishing you, they played you. And now that you're gone, they replay every move, every lie, every insult, every chance you gave them. And it kills them. It eats them alive. Because now they see nobody else treats them like you did. Nobody else has your patience, your heart, your loyalty. They thought those things were weaknesses, but your silence, it showed them they were strengths all along. and they lost them. For good. You ain't the villain in this story. They are. But here's the twist. They'll try to paint you as the cold one, the distant one, the fake one. Because accepting that they ruined something real, that's too much for their ego. So, they rewrite the script. You changed. You evolved. You're acting different. No, you just stopped acting like everything was okay. You stopped begging to be seen. You stopped watering dead plants. That's not a change. That's growth. And growth is loud in silence. Growth is when you walk away without a speech, when you disappear without a fight, because your peace is more valuable than their chaos. And let's talk about power for a second. Real power isn't yelling. It's not exposing. It's not arguing until your throat's dry. Real power? It's silence. It's control. It's walking away from disrespect without needing validation. It's being so unfazed that they start wondering if you ever cared. But you did. That's the tragedy. You cared too much. You gave too much, and they gave nothing back. So now, your silence is the only language they understand. You became fluent in it after all the times they ignored your pain, your words, your heart. Now they know how it feels. And the irony? They're the ones screaming now, but only on the inside. While you sleep better, move better, breathe better. Because silence, my friend, is the sound of healing. And healing isn't loud. It's quiet. It's powerful. It's yours. You ever notice how people only start valuing what they lost once it's gone silent? It's human nature. So predictable. It's pathetic. They only recognize the weight of your presence when you stop showing up. You gave them consistency, and they confused it with availability. You gave them honesty, and they labeled it weakness. You gave them love, and they responded with ego. But now the silence is echoing. Now your absence screams louder than all their lies, and they don't know what to do with it. They panic in private, smile in public, but deep inside, they're begging for the noise to return, because your voice used to reassure them that you still cared, even when they didn't deserve it. And now that you're quiet, they're terrified. Because that means you stopped caring, you stopped fighting, you stopped explaining, and that's when they know it's really over. People always expect a goodbye, a meltdown, a scene. They prepare for the storm because it lets them play the victim when you finally snap. But silence? Silence is different. It doesn't give them anything to hold on to. It doesn't give them closure. And that's what eats them alive. They don't get to be the hero of the story. They don't get to twist your pain into their narrative. You robbed them of that. You didn't give them the explosion. They got the vacuum. And now they're stuck trying to fill it with distractions that don't work. Because nothing they find will echo like you did. Nothing they chase will hold them down like you did. They had someone who saw their darkness and stayed anyway. And they pushed that away like it was nothing. Now your silence reminds them every day of what they threw away. And no matter how loud the world gets around them, they still hear it. And the best part? You didn't have to prove anything. You didn't have to scream, "I'm better now." You just moved in silence. You built in silence. You healed in silence. And it's driving them mad because they don't know who you've become. They don't know what version of you is coming next. The one that doesn't need them. The one that sees through them. The one that wouldn't give them the time of day anymore. That's the Joker move. That's when you stop playing their game and flip the board. No warnings. No announcements. Just silence and success. That's what they never expected. They thought you'd stay stuck in the heartbreak. But instead, you made it your fuel. You made it your rebirth. And now, every moment of your peace is a slap to their pride. See, silence ain't just the absence of sound. It's the presence of strength. It's the decision to stop pouring into people who only ever drained you. It's the moment you look in the mirror and say, no more. No more chasing. No more apologizing for being real. No more begging for bare minimums. That's when the silence kicks in. And once you get comfortable in that silence, you become unstoppable. Because now your energy isn't scattered, it's focused. Now, your thoughts aren't clouded by their chaos. They're clear. And now, every move you make is a reminder that you didn't need closure. You became it. You didn't need revenge. You outgrew them. You didn't need their validation. You validated yourself. That's what silence gave you: power, focus, control. And don't get me wrong, silence hurts. At first, it feels like abandonment, like giving up, like surrender. But over time, you start hearing your own voice again, the one they drowned out, the one they manipulated into self-doubt. And when you hear it, when you really hear it again, that's when you remember who you were before the damage. That's when you realize they never broke you. They distracted you. They blurred your vision. But now that you've gone silent, you see clearly. You see them for who they are. And more importantly, you see yourself for who you were meant to be. That's what silence gives you: clarity. And that clarity, it's your weapon now. They didn't just lose you. They lost access to your mind, your loyalty, your effort. You weren't just some number in their contact list. You were the voice that answered when no one else did. You were the one who stayed up late, listened, cared, damn near carried their weight while they acted like you were just there. But silence? Silence flipped the script. Silence is you saying, I no longer carry what doesn't carry me. And they feel it. Oh, they feel it every time they scroll past a meme that reminds them of a joke only you two understood. Every time they see a name that sounds like yours. Every time the music hits just right and brings you back like a ghost they can't exorcise. You became the reminder. Not through presence, but through absence. And that's what breaks them slowly, every damn day. And it's funny how their memory works now, huh? Selective regret. They don't remember the nights you sat there trying to understand their silence. They don't remember the tears you wiped away for someone who wouldn't have wiped yours. They don't remember how many times you gave them the benefit of the doubt when your gut was screaming the truth. But now that you've stopped speaking, they start remembering. And now that they can't reach you, they realize they should have held on tighter. But here's the thing. They didn't lose you suddenly. They lost you gradually, moment by moment, lie by lie, cold shoulder by cold shoulder, until your silence was the only answer left. They didn't notice when you started replying slower, when your tone turned colder, when your effort started fading. They thought you'd never leave. That was their biggest mistake. Your silence is their mirror now. It reflects all the things they refused to admit. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the disrespect. They see it all now, but too late. They thought silence meant weakness. They thought you'd come crawling back, begging for scraps. But now, you're thriving in your own space. And the worst part for them? They're not even sure if you think about them at all. Because you don't post about it. You don't mention it. You don't give clues. That unknown is a poison in their mind. It festers. Because humans crave control, and you took it away. Now they're just another face in the crowd to someone who once made them the center of the universe. That's the type of karma that doesn't need an announcement. They tried to destroy you with silence before, remember? Left you on red, ignored your pain, gave attention to everybody but you. Thought you'd stay on standby like some backup plan. And now you gave them back what they gave you, but you did it better. You didn't just go silent, you evolved. You didn't just disappear, you leveled up. And they don't even get to witness the glow up. That's what eats at them the most. They're not front row anymore. They're not backstage. Hell, they're not even invited. You turned the volume down on them and turned it up on your goals, your peace, your grind. Now every win you get, every smile you wear, every ounce of peace you breathe, it's a chapter they'll never get to read. You want to know why your silence works so well? Because it's the language of healed people. It says, I've processed it, I've accepted it, and I've moved on. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. You see things now. You see who's for you and who was just using you. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure. Your silence is the closure. You said everything without saying a word. You took the power they thought they had and buried it under indifference. And now they're the ones waiting, watching, wondering, while you move forward like they never mattered. And that's the most painful goodbye of all, the one that comes with no goodbye at all. They never expected the silence to last this long. They thought it was just another phase, another emotional stunt, another cry for attention, because that's what they would have done. But you vanished like you were never there. And now it haunts them, because deep down, they know this isn't silence out of weakness. This is silence out of finality. You're done. You're gone. Not in the way people usually mean it. Not in the way where someone leaves the door half open. You didn't just leave the building, you burned the bridge, scattered the ashes, and built a better road with your name on it. And they don't know where it leads. That's what scares them. The uncertainty. Because when you were around, they had the upper hand. They knew you'd answer. They knew you'd explain. They knew they could play games and still have you at the end of the night. But now, you're a ghost, untouchable. And their world got real quiet, real fast. They start questioning everything now. Did you ever really love them? Were you just pretending? Did they matter at all? The irony is rich, ain't it? They wanted you to chase, to beg, to break. They wanted to be the center of your gravity, but instead you collapsed your own universe and rebuilt it without them. And now they're stuck orbiting a memory, trying to grab onto a version of you that no longer exists. You evolved. You transcended. While they're still stuck at the last moment they saw you, emotionally, mentally, spiritually frozen. You broke the loop they tried to trap you in. And now they can't reach you. Not because you blocked them, but because you outgrew them. People always assume silence means I have nothing to say. But in reality, it means you're not worth the energy anymore. It means I've screamed enough into the void. It means I don't need to be understood by people who never cared to listen. And when they finally realize that, they crack. Because you were their punching bag, their emotional sponge, their therapist, their fallback, their fix. And now they gotta sit with themselves, with all the mess they made. And no, they won't admit it. Their pride won't let them, but they feel it in the way they hesitate before opening a message thread you left cold, in the way they type, delete, type again, and then put the phone down. Your silence is louder than their pride can handle. It breaks through the noise of their distractions. It cuts through the fake laughs, the shallow hookups, the late night scrolling. You became the silence that screams, I learned, I healed, I left. It's powerful, isn't it? The ability to say so much without speaking. You don't owe them a scene. You don't owe them your pain. You don't owe them the explanation they refused to listen to when you were pouring your heart out. All you owe them is your absence. And not just physical absence, emotional absence. The kind of absence that says, even if you come back, I won't be the same. The kind of absence that says, you had your chance and you blew it. That's what they can't process. Because they always thought you'd need them more than they needed you. They miscalculated. They underestimated the resilience you were building in silence. The strength you were harvesting every time they broke you. And now you wear that silence like armor. Now your peace is a blade they can't defend against. And let me tell you this, don't break that silence. Not for nostalgia, not for loneliness, not for false apologies wrapped in guilt. They'll come crawling eventually, with vague texts, with just checking on you messages, with fake closure attempts. But remember, silence taught you who you were without them. Don't let their noise drag you back into the chaos. Let your peace speak for itself. Let your silence continue to kill the version of you they thought they controlled. Because now you're not playing to be heard. You're playing to be free. You see, silence like yours, it ain't passive. It ain't some weak little quiet cry from someone too broken to speak. It's war. Strategic. Calculated. Ruthless. It's the storm you never saw coming because it doesn't rage, it starves. It doesn't destroy by screaming, it kills by depriving. You took back your energy, your focus, your soul. You stopped feeding the egos that fed off your pain. You stopped performing for people who only showed up to applaud your downfall. And that kind of silence, that kind of cold, heavy quiet, it doesn't whisper. It suffocates. It wraps around their chest at 3 a.m. and makes it hard to breathe. It sits on their conscience like a weight they can't lift. And no matter how many people they surround themselves with, none of them speak like you did. None of them see them like you did. They're surrounded by noise, but haunted by your silence. That's poetic justice. That's the punishment they never saw coming. You became the absence they can't escape. You became the thought they can't shake. You became the question that has no answer, because you're not answering anymore. And that's power. Not the fake kind, not the Instagram kind, not the attention-seeking, staged kind. Real power. The kind that comes from knowing your worth. The kind that builds itself in the shadows, while everyone's busy putting on shows for the world. You didn't just ghost them. You erased the version of yourself that needed them. And now you walk like a phantom they once knew, but could never understand. Let them guess. Let them wonder. Let them ache in their silence while you thrive in yours. And yeah, they'll try to flip the script eventually. They always do. They'll say you changed. Say you became cold, heartless, distant. They'll paint your silence like it's an act of cruelty, a betrayal. But let them talk. Let them rewrite history in their heads. Because the truth doesn't need defense. You were there when it mattered. You showed up when they didn't deserve it. You gave more than they earned. And still, they chose ego over empathy, games over growth, comfort over connection. So now they live with the result of their decisions. And you live in freedom. Their guilt is not your burden. Their regret is not your concern. Your silence isn't revenge. It's recovery. It's you choosing you. Finally. Fully. You know why silence is feared? Because it can't be controlled. It can't be predicted. It forces people to sit with their own demons. It reflects every wound they caused, but never admitted. And you became that mirror. You became the reflection of everything they hate about themselves. Because you gave them light, and they brought shade. You gave them truth, and they gave you confusion. You gave them presence, and they gave you distance. And now you give them silence, and it's the loudest thing they've ever heard. And that silence, it's sacred now. Don't waste it. Don't shatter it for a cheap apology or a "I miss you" from someone who didn't even notice when you were bleeding. Let the silence stretch. Let it grow. Let it echo. Because the longer it lasts, the clearer your value becomes. To them, to you, to everyone. You didn't lose anything by walking away. You gained everything they were too blind to see. Your peace, your dignity, your self-respect. All built in silence. All born from the ashes of your patience. And if they ever reach out again, and they will, they won't be looking for you. They'll be looking for the version of you they controlled. The one who explained. The one who waited. The one who forgave too easily. But that version is dead. That version died the moment you realized your voice had been wasted on the unworthy. And now what stands in its place? Is someone untouchable, unapologetic, unavailable. That's what your silence built. That's what they destroyed. And that's what they'll never get back. You don't owe them a sound, not a word, not a sigh, not even a breath that proves you still think about them. You don't owe them your reaction, your anger, your confusion. Because every time you stayed quiet while they lied, while they disrespected, while they pretended like you didn't matter, you were building something. You were planting seeds in your own silence. Seeds of awareness, seeds of resolve. And now those seeds have grown into a wall they can't climb, a distance they can't close. Because this silence isn't temporary. It's not a tantrum. It's not the calm before some desperate apology. No, this silence is a lifestyle now, a boundary, a shield. You forged it in the fire they started, and now they can't touch you without burning themselves. That's the poetic ending they never saw coming. The one where the one who always spoke finally stopped, and in stopping became louder than ever. They thought they knew you, thought they had you figured out. But the truth is, they only knew the version of you that tolerated their behavior, the version that bent instead of breaking, the version that gave instead of demanding, the version that stayed instead of walking. But you outgrew that version. You left it behind like a snake shedding its skin. And now, when they try to come back, they're knocking on the door of a stranger. A stronger you. A colder you. A version that sees through the sweet words and the fake check-ins. You don't fall for that anymore. You've heard it all before. I miss you. I was going through a lot. I didn't mean to. No, they didn't mean to lose you, but they did. And now they can't find their way back because silence built a maze they'll never navigate. A maze with no exit, no cheat code, just regret. And here's the thing, people hate being ignored. It bruises their pride. It makes them feel small. But when someone who once gave them everything suddenly gives them nothing, that doesn't just bruise, it breaks. It cracks their reality, makes them question everything. And you became that crack. You became the fracture in their perfect image of themselves, because deep down they knew you were the one who always held it together. And now that you're gone, nothing feels stable. They laugh, but it's hollow. They move on, but it's forced. Because real ones, they don't come twice. You were the rare breed, the listener, the loyal one, the calm in the storm. And they traded that for ego, for games, for attention. Now they can drown in all that noise. Let them. You're done saving people who set fire to your peace and called it passion. Your silence is your new identity. It's your protection, your filter, your standard. It says, if you can't respect my voice, you don't deserve my presence. It says, if you didn't see my value then, don't search for me now. And people will try. Oh, they'll try. Not because they love you, not because they finally understand, but because they miss the way you made them feel about themselves. You were their comfort, their mirror, their therapist, their emotional sponge. And now that you're silent, they realize they've got nothing left but their own reflection. And it's not pretty. That's the thing about silence. It doesn't just show you who people are. It shows them too. And not everybody can survive that truth. So keep it, guard it, honor it. Your silence is not emptiness. It's full of power, full of truth, full of everything they refused to hear when you were speaking. Let it stretch, let it grow. And when they finally break under the weight of it, don't feel guilty. Feel proud, because you didn't get loud, you got smart. You didn't get even, you got better. You didn't destroy them, you just stopped saving them. And that's what's really killing them now. You know what's wild? They never thought your silence would last. They thought it was temporary, a tantrum, a bluff. They thought you'd crawl back after a few days like always, because that's what they're used to. People who talk big, but fold under pressure. But you became the exception. You didn't just walk away. You erased your footprints. You didn't slam the door. You built a wall where it once stood. And now, they sit behind screens, trying to decode your silence, like it's some kind of riddle, like there's still hope in the stillness. But there isn't. Not anymore. Because that silence, it isn't a pause, it's a verdict. It's the final judgment after a trial where they never showed up to defend their actions, and it's permanent. That's what's killing them. The realization that there's no later, no maybe, no let's talk. There's just nothing. And the worst part? You're not angry anymore. You're indifferent. That's what makes silence so lethal. When anger dies, it doesn't leave peace. It leaves apathy. And apathy is colder than hate. Hate still means you care enough to feel. But indifference? Indifference means you're free. They don't live rent-free in your head anymore. You don't stalk their stories. You don't hope they reach out. You don't fantasize about closure. You've closed the book, burned it even, and they feel that in their gut. Because humans can sense when they've been truly cut off. It's not in your words, it's in your absence, in the way you carry yourself now, in the way you don't flinch, don't check, don't care. That's a special kind of pain, one that lingers longer than any insult, any fight, any goodbye. They'll try to fill the gap, you know, try to replace the silence with noise, new people, fake friends, half-hearted distractions. But nothing hits the same, because what you gave them wasn't surface level. It was soul deep. You gave them honesty in a world full of performers. You gave them loyalty in a time of convenience, and they mistook that for weakness. Thought they could always find someone better, but better isn't louder. Better isn't trendier. Better is rarer. And you were rare. So rare they didn't even recognize your value until it was gone. And now, every new person they meet feels like a copy of a copy, blurry, cheap, empty. They smile, but it's forced. They laugh, but it's hollow. Because you ruined mediocrity for them. You set the standard too high. And now, they're stuck trying to reach something they'll never touch again. That's the power of your silence. It leaves echoes in places you've never returned to. It haunts rooms you no longer enter. It whispers through timelines, through messages never sent, through calls never made. And while they rot in the silence they earned, you rise in the peace you fought for. You rebuild, not for them to see, not for anyone to applaud, but for you. Because silence gave you space to remember your worth, your goals, your power. You stopped proving yourself and started being yourself. That's why you're dangerous now. Because you learned how to love without losing yourself. You learned how to care without begging to be cared for. You learned how to stay silent and still be heard. And here's the final truth. They thought your silence was a punishment, but it was a lesson. A lesson they refused to learn when you were patient. A truth they ignored when you were loud. But silence doesn't need permission, it doesn't need agreement, it just is. And now it speaks for you. It walks into every room before your name is even mentioned, and when it does, it stings, it lingers, it destroys. Because your silence isn't just silence anymore. It's a legacy. A cold, unshakable reminder that they had something golden and spit on it. Now, they get to sit in the ruin while you keep moving in the stillness.